The pine needle-scented echo of the rift vanished, replaced by the earthy, comforting fragrance of hay, oiled leather, and the unmistakable musk of horses. Yet, beneath it all, there was something else. An almost electric hum, a faint but undeniable buzz that resonated with the promise of something far beyond the familiar. Nanda's sensitive nose flared as the air thickened with sounds. The rhythmic pounding of hooves, the unmistakable hiss of wind. The ground vibrated underfoot, a pulse that matched the thumping heartbeats of the creatures surrounding them. A gust of air rushed past, carrying with it the tang of oil, sweat, and something that reeked of metal, of machines. Lancelot's hand went instinctively to the hilt of his sword, his posture tensing as he scanned the arena. A group of riders shot past, their mounts moving with terrifying speed. These were not mere horses. These creatures were living machines, woven from flesh and steel, their bodies sleek and sculpted with a strange beauty that seemed both organic and mechanical. Their muscled legs ended in metallic hooves that barely kissed the surface, and their movement was so fluid it almost seemed as if they were gliding, more a whisper than a stamp. As the riders sped past, Nanda glimpsed veins of glowing energy pulsing beneath their skin, like threads of molten fire, crackling with raw power. The riders, clad in what looked like black rubber jumpsuits, moved in perfect harmony with their steeds, the connection between them so seamless it was impossible to tell where one ended and the other began. Every shift of weight, every flicker of movement was mirrored with flawless precision, as though they shared one heart, one purpose. The arena stretched before them, a vast expanse of polished metal and glass. The floor gleamed, reflecting the high-speed choreography unfolding in front of them, a blur of riders and mounts in a chaotic, breathtaking dance. Transparent fences rose around the space, their smooth surfaces alive with flickering holograms, tracking the movements of every rider, every steed, with uncanny precision. The air thrummed with an energy that felt almost tangible, as though the very atmosphere was charged with unseen forces. Nanda's eyes narrowed as a rider executed an impossible leap, their mount twisting mid-air with mechanical grace. The beast landed effortlessly, its legs barely bending as it absorbed the impact. The riders pushed their mounts harder, executing sharp turns, synchronized leaps, and dashes so fast it was as if they were defying the laws of motion. "A training ground," Lancelot murmured, his voice a mix of awe and unease. He watched as another rider expertly guided their steed into a rapid series of spins and turns, but not like any I've seen before. Nanda's tail flicked uneasily, her eyes wide as she observed the arena's intense atmosphere. This wasn't merely a place for practice, it was something more, a proving ground for powers far beyond their understanding. Each motion in the space felt charged with intent, as the bio-steeds surged past them again. Their energy, raw, mechanical, and almost alive, stirred something in Nanda's chest. A feeling that this was not just a test of skill, but something far more dangerous. She glanced at Lancelot, his face grim. "We're not just here to watch, are we?" she murmured, her voice low with the weight of realization. Lancelot's jaw tightened, his eyes hardening as he took in the scene. "No," he replied, his voice thick with the sense that what awaited them was more than they had prepared for. They stood at the edge of something far darker. Nanda nodded, her tail flicking again, this time with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. The power and precision of the bio-steeds were awe-inspiring, but the air crackled with tension, as if something unseen was waiting, watching. A figure emerged from the shadows, a silhouette against the blinding light. As he stepped into view, his imposing form loomed over them. Commander Asgeir exuded an aura of power and mystery. His strong features were striking, high cheekbones, a sharp jawline, and eyes as blue and cold as glacial ice. His uniform, sleek black and silver, was adorned with intricate symbols that seemed to shimmer with an inner energy, an enigma in every detail. He stopped before them, his gaze sweeping over the pair with practiced precision. "You've arrived," he said, his voice deep and gravelly. "I've been expecting you." Lancelot exchanged a brief glance with Nanda but said nothing. Asgeir's voice carried on, unwavering and authoritative. "If you wish to reach the Grail, you must prove yourselves. Before I show you the door to the final test, you must face 3 trials, Tests of skill, courage, and unity. The steeds will decide your worth. Lancelot stepped forward, resolve firming in his chest. We are ready. Commander Asger nodded, motioning toward the shimmering stables, where sleek, biomechanical steeds stood tethered to glowing energy stations. The beasts hummed with latent power, their metallic forms reflecting the ambient light like living sculptures. Then let the first trial begin. Trial 1. The Steeds Bond. With that, Asger led them directly to the very heart of the arena, where a solitary figure awaited them. It was a steed unlike any they had ever encountered, a magnificent fusion of biology and technology that dwarfed even the largest war horses Lancelot had ridden into battle. Its metallic coat, a seamless blend of polished chrome and living tissue, shimmered like liquid silver under the arena's radiant glow. Its eyes, not of flesh and blood, but twin orbs of pulsating energy, burned with an uncanny intelligence. Thick chains of crackling energy, thrumming with contained power, bound the creature to the ground, its raw strength barely restrained. The first trial is simple, Asger announced, his voice amplified across the arena. To ride the steed, you must first earn its trust. This is no mere beast of burden, it is a creature of will and sentience. It will not tolerate a rider unworthy of its power. Approach it, show it your resolve, and mount it if you can. Lancelot felt a knot tighten in his stomach. He was no stranger to danger, having faced down dragons, sorcerers, and entire armies in his lifetime. But as he stepped forward, a strange unease settled over him. This challenge was different. It wasn't just about physical strength or courage, it was about something more profound. A connection he had to forge with this magnificent creature. He moved towards the steed with a measured pace, each step deliberate and controlled. His hands were open, palms facing outward, a gesture of peace and non-aggression. The air crackled with anticipation, a palpable tension that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. The steed snorted, a plume of vaporized coolant escaping its nostrils, and its metallic hooves scraped against the polished floor, sending a shower of sparks dancing through the air. Its energy eyes, windows to an alien mind, locked onto Lancelot, their intensity making him feel as though his very soul was being laid bare. Give it a carrot! Give it a carrot! Nanda shrieked, her voice tight with anxiety. Lancelot, without a word, shot her a withering look that spoke volumes. He needed absolute focus, and her frantic cries were shattering his concentration. Nanda, sensing his displeasure, took a deep breath and forced herself to calm down. She knew Lancelot needed to be in sync with the steed, and her outburst wasn't helping. She settled back, her gaze fixed on Lancelot, a silent apology in her eyes. Lancelot halted a few paces away, his hand outstretched, palm upwards in a gesture of supplication. He held his breath, the silence in the arena deafening, broken only by the thrumming of the energy chains and the pounding of his own heart. Time seemed to stretch on endlessly, as the steed continued its unwavering scrutiny. Then, with a low, guttural whinny that resonated through the arena like a tremor, the creature lowered its head in a gesture of acceptance. A wave of relief washed over Lancelot, followed by a surge of exhilaration. He stepped closer, cautiously reaching out to touch the steed's mane. It felt cool and smooth beneath his fingers, a strange blend of organic and artificial. With a practiced motion honed from years of riding, he swung himself onto the steed's back. The instant he was in the saddle, the energy tethers disengaged with a blinding flash, releasing the steed from its restraints. It reared up, a magnificent spectacle of chrome and power, and let out a triumphant cry that echoed through the arena. Lancelot gripped the reins, his heart pounding as the steed surged forward, its powerful strides covering vast distances with impossible speed. He risked a glance back at Nanda, a triumphant grin spreading across his face. One trial down, he shouted, his voice barely audible above the rush of wind and the thrumming of the steed's powerful body. He had a feeling this was just the beginning of a truly extraordinary ride. Trial 2, the Gauntlet of Shadowgates. Commander Asger wasted no time in ushering them towards their next challenge. The second trial requires speed, precision, and unwavering trust, he declared, his voice echoing through the arena. With a sweeping gesture, he indicated a series of arching gates that materialized across the arena floor. These were no ordinary obstacles. Their edges shimmered with an ominous black light, writhing with an energy that seemed to defy the laws of nature. The shadow gates, as Gare explained, his tone grave, will test your ability to navigate chaos. You must ride through them in sequence, but be warned, they shift, they writhe, and they bite. Lancelot frowned, his brow furrowed in concern. Bite? Osgare offered no further explanation, a faint smile playing on his lips. With a low hum, the machinery within the arena sprang to life. The first gate pulsed with a malevolent energy, its edges sprouting thorny projections of dark energy that crackled menacingly. Lancelot cannot face this trial alone, Osgare added, turning his sharp gaze towards Nanda. The second trial requires both of you. It demands unity and a shared understanding. Nanda's fur bristled, her feline instincts screaming at her to flee. Me? Ride that? She exclaimed, eyeing the towering steeds with a mixture of awe and trepidation. The steeds are not merely machines, Osgare reassured her, his voice calm and steady. They are extensions of the riders themselves. They will know your heart, your fears, and your strengths. They will adapt. Before Nanda could protest further, a steed approached her. Unlike the imposing war horses the other riders favored, this one was smaller, sleeker, its form reminiscent of a panther. Its metallic coat gleamed with an iridescent sheen, and its energy eyes pulsed with an inviting warmth. It lowered its head, almost bowing, as if inviting her to ride. Nanda swallowed her apprehension, a spark of excitement igniting within her. Fine, she conceded, a mischievous glint in her eyes. But if I die, I'm haunting you, Lancelot. Lancelot chuckled, a wave of affection washing over him. He admired her spirit, her unwavering courage in the face of the unknown. As they mounted their steeds, a sense of shared purpose settled over them. The trial began with a deafening crackle of energy. The shadow gates shimmered and twisted, their positions changing erratically, their thorny projections reaching out like grasping claws. Lancelot and Nanda urged their steeds forward, adrenaline surging through their veins. Nanda's steed, designed with a rider like her in mind, had a specially crafted saddle that accommodated her feline form. It molded perfectly to her body, providing secure grips for her claws and a comfortable position for her tail. At the time, it all seemed perfectly natural to her. She instinctively knew how to guide the creature, her feline reflexes translating seamlessly to this new mode of riding. The biomechanical creature moved with an astonishing grace, its movements mirroring her own with uncanny precision, as if it were an extension of her own body. It leaped and dodged, weaving through the treacherous gates, its feline agility allowing it to navigate the shifting maze with breathtaking speed. Nanda whooped with delight, her initial fear replaced by a thrill of exhilaration. "Stay with me!" Lancelot shouted, his voice barely audible above the roar of the steeds and the crackling of the shadow gates. He guided his own mount through a particularly narrow opening, the thorny projections snapping at his heels. "I am with you," Nanda retorted, her feline reflexes honed to their peak. She leaned into the turns, her body instinctively guiding the steed with the slightest shifts of weight and pressure. She urged her steed into a daring leap, clearing a closing gate by a hair's breadth. The gates grew increasingly erratic, their movements becoming more frantic, their thorny projections more aggressive. The air crackled with energy, and the ground vibrated with the thunder of hooves. But Lancelot and Nanda, their bond strengthened by the shared danger, rode as one. Finally, with a final burst of speed, they cleared the last gate. A wave of dark energy pulsed outwards, threatening to engulf them, but then dissipated harmlessly into the air. Nanda's steed came to a halt beside Lancelot's, its sides heaving. She let out a breathless laugh, the adrenaline still coursing through her. "Never again," she gasped, but her voice held a hint of pride. Lancelot grinned, his heart swelling with admiration. "You were brilliant," he said, his voice filled with warmth. He had never seen her so alive, so in tune with her primal instincts. Later, when the dust had settled, Nanda would reflect on the strangeness of it all. How could she, a cat who had spent her life in a quiet cottage, suddenly find herself riding a biomechanical steed with such natural ease? For she was a cat, a real cat, not a cartoon cat. And how was this place, this arena, seemingly equipped for feline riders? It was a mystery that would linger in her mind for a long time. Trial 3, The Leap of Faith. Commander Asger next brought them to the edge of a massive chasm that had opened in the arena floor. On the far side, a gleaming doorway awaited, flanked by two colossal statues of armored warriors. A low hum of energy radiated from the gap between them, like a heart beating in slow, deliberate rhythm. The final trial of this arena, Asger declared, is a leap of faith. The steeds will carry you, but only if you trust them completely. Doubt, and you will fall. Lancelot's jaw set with determination as he turned to Nanda. Are you ready? The cat's ears flattened, her tail twitching anxiously. But then she took a steadying breath and lifted her chin. As I'll ever be. The steeds snorted and pawed the ground, their hooves sparking against the polished floor as if impatient to begin. The chasm seemed endless, its depths lost to shadow. Remember, Asger said, his voice echoing behind them. The steeds respond to belief. If you falter in your faith, they will not carry you. Lancelot gave a firm nod, gripping the reins. Then let us ride. At his command, both steeds surged forward. The ground trembled beneath their hooves, before it fell away entirely. Lancelot's gaze stayed fixed on the doorway across the void, even as the wind whipped around them. Beside him, Nanda's feline frame clung tightly to her steed's neck, her fur bristling as they soared. For a heartbeat, they hung suspended in empty air, the chasm yawning below like an endless maw. Trust them, Lancelot shouted over the rush of wind. Nanda squeezed her eyes shut. I do. The steeds surged forward, muscles rippling with strength, as though powered by the very faith they were promised. Moments later, they landed with an earth-shaking impact on the far side. Nanda gasped, releasing the breath she'd been holding as her steed came to a gentle stop, nostrils flaring and chest heaving. The doorway before them pulsed brighter now, its surface rippling like liquid light. It felt alive, watching them in silent judgment. Suddenly, Commander Asger's voice echoed from behind. Yet when they turned, he was no longer on the far side of the chasm but standing just beyond the doorway itself. He raised a hand in solemn approval. You have proven your worth and unity. This arena's trials are complete, Asger announced. Now beyond this door lies the final test, the true path to the Grail. Lancelot dismounted, offering Nanda his hand to steady her as she climbed down. The steeds remained close, their presence reassuring, as though waiting to guide them further. Lancelot turned to Nanda, his expression both weary and resolute. This is it. Nanda took a deep breath, brushing dust from her fur. You don't need to say it twice. Let's finish what we started. Together, they stepped forward, the steeds watching as the doorway's light swallowed their riders whole. Remember, Asger said, his voice echoing behind them, the steeds respond to belief. If you falter in your faith, they will not carry you. Lancelot gave a firm nod, gripping the reins. Then let us ride. At his command, both steeds surged forward. The ground trembled beneath their hooves before it fell away entirely. Lancelot's gaze stayed fixed on the doorway across the void, even as the wind whipped around them. Beside him, Nanda's feline frame clung tightly to her steed's neck, her fur bristling as they soared. For a heartbeat, they hung suspended in empty air, the chasm yawning below like an endless maw. Trust them, Lancelot shouted over the rush of wind. Nanda squeezed her eyes shut. I do. The steeds surged forward, muscles rippling with strength, as though powered by the very faith they were promised. Moments later, they landed with an earth-shaking impact on the far side. Nanda gasped, releasing the breath she'd been holding as her steed came to a gentle stop, nostrils flaring and chest heaving. The doorway before them pulsed brighter now, its surface rippling like liquid light. It felt alive, watching them in silent judgment. Suddenly, Commander Asger's voice echoed from behind. Yet when they turned, he was no longer on the far side of the chasm, but standing just beyond the doorway itself. He raised a hand in solemn approval. You have proven your worth and unity. This arena's trials are complete, Asger announced. Now beyond this door lies the final test, the true path to the Grail. Lancelot dismounted, offering Nanda his hand to steady her as she climbed down. The steeds remained close, their presence reassuring, as though waiting to guide them further. Lancelot turned to Nanda, his expression both weary and resolute. This is it. Nanda took a deep breath, brushing dust from her fur. You don't need to say it twice. Let's finish what we started. Together they stepped forward, the steeds watching as the doorway's light swallowed their riders whole. The swirling light deposited them gently in a peaceful sanctuary. A shimmering pool of water dominated the center of the circular chamber, its surface as smooth as glass, reflecting the faint light from the torches that lined the walls. The pool seemed to radiate an ethereal glow, giving the space an otherworldly ambiance. And there, standing beside the pool, bathed in a soft, comforting light, was Viego. Viego? Nanda exclaimed, her voice filled with surprise and joy. You're here. Viego's tail wagged gently, his golden eyes sparkling with warmth and affection. He bounded towards her, his dark fur rippling like liquid silk, and nuzzled his head against her. A silent greeting that spoke volumes of their shared bond. Nanda leaned into his touch, a wave of relief washing over her. Despite the strangeness of her surroundings, the presence of her loyal friend brought a sense of comfort and familiarity. But how did you? She began, her voice filled with questions. Viego tilted his head, his eyes twinkling with a hint of mischief. I have my ways, Nanda, he said, his voice a gentle whisper in her mind. I couldn't let you wander alone in this place. Nanda's heart swelled with gratitude. But, aren't you? She trailed off, unsure how to express her confusion about his presence in this realm. Viego gazed at her, his eyes filled with a deep understanding. I am here to help you, Nanda, he reassured her, to guide you back to where you belong. Nanda frowned, her brow furrowing with uncertainty. But I thought I had a purpose here, a destiny to fulfill. Viego's expression softened, his eyes filled with concern. This path is not for you, Nanda, he said, his voice gentle but firm. It is fraught with confusion and uncertainty. Come with me. Return to where you belong, where you can find peace. He turned his head towards the shimmering pool, its depths swirling with an otherworldly light. This path leads to the Grail, Nanda. The Grail is not meant for you. Do not continue down this path. Nanda felt a conflict raging within her, her desire to pursue the Grail battling against the comforting familiarity of Viego's presence and the peace he promised. She looked into his eyes, searching for answers, for guidance. Viego met her gaze, his expression filled with a deep sadness. Please, Nanda, he pleaded, his voice barely above a whisper. Come home. Nanda's heart ached with the weight of his plea, the sincerity in his eyes tugging at her soul. She wanted to believe him, to trust in his guidance, to return to the peace and familiarity he offered. But the allure of the Grail, the promise of its power, the belief that she had a destiny to fulfill, held her captive. I need to do this, Viego, she said, her voice barely above a whisper, her eyes filled with a mixture of determination and regret. I need to see this through. Viego's expression hardened, his eyes filled with a deep sadness. Then so be it, Nanda, he said, his voice heavy with resignation. But know that I will be here, waiting for you, hoping that you will choose the path that leads you back to peace. He stepped aside, gesturing towards the pool, its shimmering surface beckoning her forward. The Grail awaits you. Have fun. Nanda took a deep breath, steeling her resolve. She looked towards the pool, its depths swirling with an otherworldly light, a gateway to the unknown. I'm ready, she declared, her voice filled with a newfound determination, a mixture of fear and excitement coursing through her veins. Let the final trial begin.